Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your attendance and welcome to the Digital Advancement Academy here in Dubai. Just before you get introduced to the session that you're really here for, we're going to do a few housekeeping tips. We've always got to keep ourselves right from a housekeeping perspective. The first thing is, please put your phones on silent. I'm sure you've got some embarrassing ringtones that you don't want us to hear, so you can put your phones on silent. And also, we are going to be recording some of today's event, so please do smile. Hopefully you're here to enjoy yourself, so please feel free to smile. We don't expect it to be an emergency, but in the event that there is, the way that we exit this particular room is from the doors on either ends and towards the front of the building out towards Sheikh Zayed Road. In respect to a different kind of emergency, if you need the toilet, then that's back towards the elevator where you came in and just opposite the elevators on the right hand side. My name's Craig Garrett. I manage this academy here in Dubai, and my colleague Arun manages it with me. We're based here 100% of our time, and we've came from the construction industry ourselves, so we feel that we can actually deliver sessions here because we understand actually the challenges that you guys face on a daily basis. Myself from a consultant background, and Arun from a contractor background. Little bit of an introduction from some of my colleagues.
The goal of the Digital Advancement Academies is to act as a catalyst for industry thought leadership and knowledge exchange, aiding in the efforts to better align owner-operators, contractors and the supply chain involved in the creation and operation of both the digital and physical assets. With a process-focused approach, academies provide a neutral space for participants to define desired industry outcomes and crucially establish why those outcomes matter. This collaborative approach to tackling industry challenges optimizes new solutions, empowers change, and advances best practices and drives standards. With that foundation established, further academies sessions help industry partners align their supply chain. We ensure that all stakeholders fully understand the processes, standards, and deliverables expected for successful project outcomes.
So I think one of the big problems we have out there is people not wanting to talk to each other. So the catalyst that we have in the Academy is that collaborative environment that allows people to talk together and share their knowledge, share their experiences, share their problems, but also share the successes and solutions.
I think the biggest takeaway I took from it was a slight change in tone from many presentations that I've been in before, and it concentrated on what I call the slightly softer issues, the human factors, and dealt with some realism, I felt, about where BIM is now and where we need to go in the future.
Simply put, Digital Advancement Academies ensure that latest knowledge is shared and exchanged between industry stakeholders, creating a lasting legacy that benefits society.
And we are really massive on this knowledge exchange idea, and that's exactly what you guys are here to do today. You're here to benefit from that knowledge and that experience of others and hopefully share it among you. So we're delighted that we can host you guys here today, because I think what you're doing here is fantastic and it really aligns with our goals as an organisation. We have 7 academies across the globe, most of who were only put in place last year. And I was just speaking to some of your senior members there to say that we actually do have one in Sydney. So we need to see how we can connect you better with your colleagues in Sydney. Our facilities here are made available free of charge for you guys to use, which is what you're doing today. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And we run sessions here ourselves on BIM and digital delivery, again, which are free of charge for anyone to take account of. If you want to know more about that, you can ask us later. We'd be more than happy to help you understand the kind of courses that we deliver here. But that's not why you're here. You're here today for Engineers Australia, so I'll hand you over to your organisers. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hazem. I'm the chairman of Engineers Australia, UAE chapter. I would like to thank Bentley Institute for a great arrangement. I would like to thank everyone in this room for supporting us and attending our first meeting. Can I just? It's difficult.
Thank you, man. Probably my voice will be very loud. Engineers Australia UAE chapter, we started as interest group in Doha in 2014. Before 2014, there were a few activities in the region, but were not very successful. We were 4 people in Doha and 1 gentleman here in UAE. We started the interest group, and we were under the supervision of Engineers Australia headquarters until the CEO visited us early 2015, and he decided to start a professional chapter. The first chapter launch was in August 2015, and the 2 locations we currently have is in Qatar and UAE. We formed sort of a committee because we were on hold. The UAE chapter was on hold for approximately 16 months, but luckily we started with 2020. So we formed a chapter of 7 people at the moment, committee members, and we are open actually to have up to 12 people, committee members. So if anyone interested, please come and see me after the event. So I will go quickly through the chapter members. So that's myself. My name is Hazem. I'm the chairman of Engineers Australia. I manage a company called DMT, Engineering Consulting Group. It's a German company. Basil, raise your hand. Basil is the assistant chairman, and he is assistant general manager of Gantut Group as well. We got Helen. I'm sure many of you guys know Helen. She's the regional director of projects in Jacob, Middle East. She just moved to Dubai recently. And she had a lot of activities in Australia with Engineers Australia as well. We got Feeman. He's the managing director of Vortex Fire. Raise your hand, please, Feeman. We have Faisal, a senior transportation engineer who works for a Borg Consulting Group. Blake is the youngster. He takes care of the graduates, and he's from Adelaide, Australia, and he just moved in 2019. And Fadi, I'm sure a lot of you guys work for Jacob, so you know Fadi as well. He's principal mechanical engineer. So we have a very interesting topic. I'm sure most of you guys keen to be chartered. We have an important visit from Asli Pang. He's a regional business development manager of Engineers Australia. He takes care of the members internationally. He assists all the chapters, and he can coordinate all the chapters as well in different countries. And I will let him give the presentation now. Please come and see me if you're interested to join the committee. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Hazem. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time to be here. My name is Asli. I'm the Regional Business Development Manager. Hazem and the rest of the people in the committee, they are all volunteers, whereas this is my full-time job. So I'm here to support the membership and also here to support the chapter. So if at any time you need my business card, if you have not gotten one, please feel free and ask me anything that's pertaining to Engineers Australia. So let's go into the topic that we're going to talk about today. Today we're talking about chartered. Okay, can I just have a show of hand? How many of you here are a member of Engineers Australia? Wow, that's good. Thank you very much for your support. How many here is a chartered member of Engineers Australia? All right, please approach them and they'll do the talk, not me. All right. Well, you're in the right place. I'm here to have and happy to share about chartership, but just to give you a bit of a background. So obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? I'm sure you already know that as an engineer, you need to have a connection after you graduated. But just bear with me as I just go through very quickly the steps of a career. So when you first started off, obviously as a student in the university, 4 years, right? What we were looking for, you're looking for industry opportunities back then. You're also looking for, to build your professional portfolio, to get awards and things like that. But none of you here are still students, right? No. All right, good. So when you graduated, you are looking for global mobility. What does global mobility is important? I'm sure not all of you are from UAE. So definitely, like Sin Yap, I knew him from Malaysia, right? Some of you are definitely from Australia or other parts of the world. So, which means that engineering has become a global profession today. You will no longer be working at where you were originally. And in fact, even some of the projects that you're working here in UAE may not be for UAE. It could be for somewhere, other parts around the Gulf, or even to Australia or other parts of the world. So it is a global profession. Now, as you progress in your career, obviously you'll be looking at building your capability as a practicing professional. What are you looking for? You're looking for business acumen, because you realize that as an engineer, you can only go so far if you are not leading the business unit. So when you talk about business unit, you're talking about looking at tenders and things like that. You need to know the bottom line, whether it's going to be profitable, how you're going to manage your costs and things like that. And then you'll be looking at also wanting to continue to build capability, and you're looking towards, maybe I want to get myself to be chartered. And why is charter important? We'll share shortly. And as you progress further down your career path, you start wanting to be committed to excellence. You want to have an internationally recognized credential, and you also want to build your value, right? You want to build your value and to prove yourself as a leader. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to make a disclaimer here. If you're not chartered, doesn't mean you're not competent. I make it very clear. If you're not chartered, doesn't mean you're not competent. It's just that you have not gone through an internationally benchmarked process of demonstrating your competency. So that was what charter is all about. It's an internationally benchmarked process to check or to gauge your competency against standards. All right? So after you have become chartered, what's next? Is that the top? No, not true. Because then you want to move on further. Once you have reached maybe 15, 20 years of your experience, you'll be looking at wanting to become an engineering executive or a fellow of the institution. Now, what is engineering executive? Engineering executive is an area where we have created at Engineers Australia that recognize people in the leadership and management role. And why would we say that? 15 years down the road, do you still want to be a practicing engineer? Most probably you'll be leading teams, right? You'll be engineering managers, you'll be even a technical director where you're not really so hands-on anymore. You'll be looking at managing the business. You'll be looking at managing your teams, getting the results done and all those. That is why we recognize that you are no longer at a practicing level. You're still an engineer, of course, but you're not at a practicing level, but you're at the leadership and management role. That's why we have this post-nominals credential called engineering executive. And engineering executive is not something that you can just apply. It has to be by invitation only. All right? And of course, if you contribute to the institution and all those, you want to be recognized for your contribution. That's why you can be accorded as a fellow. And I know there's a couple of fellows here in this room, and I would like to acknowledge them. Can you please show of hands who are fellows? Right. Thank you very much. Okay. So, and why is it important? Because you want to start giving back to the profession. You want to start to look at how you want to build the next generation, because you're looking at succession. Because at the end of the day, it is the new generations that are going to take over. So this is just a short journey map, roadmap of how you will be in your career as an engineer. All right? So going back one step, earlier on we talked about chartered. That's why you are here. Now, how do you earn your status as a chartered engineer? Right? I'll show you a short video.
How do you measure respect? Is it the car you drive? Or is it the culmination of experiences? The impact you've made on the world and the paths you've carved out on the roads ahead? Is it the drive inside you to make the impossible possible? Today, you will do what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't. Because respect isn't measured in meters, but millimeters. Discover the difference 8 millimeters can make and how you can achieve the recognition you deserve with a mark of trust, skill, and expertise. Earn your status as a chartered engineer.
So, can anybody tell me what's the difference between a CPEng, CNT, or CNA? Very, very close. Only this one is different. Yes, you're right. Chartered Professional Engineer, 4 years tertiary degree, Washington Accord. Chartered Engineering Technologist, 3 years tertiary degree. And Chartered Engineering Associate, 2 years higher diploma tertiary degree. Which means that not only a 4-year degree holder can become chartered, even a 3-year or a 2 years with a higher diploma can still be chartered. Of course, you'll be chartered on a different sets of competencies. All right? And can someone who is a chartered engineering associate convert to become a chartered professional engineer? The answer is no. You will have to go through the whole process again because you are being benchmarked differently. So there's no such thing as, oh, I have earned my 4 years degree, now can I convert? You can't. All right? But the message I wanted to say here is you can still be chartered. All right? So in today's marketplace, the business and the employee is being pressured to prove your value. Right? You are continuously need to improve your efficiency, upskill and build your capability, and as well as stand out. And this is very true because when you bid for projects, how do you differentiate yourself if everybody has got the same capabilities to deliver? It is how many competent engineers or how many chartered engineers do you have within the business that's working on the project. That could help you to stand out. And when you become chartered, you have your mark as a trust, skill, and expertise. First and foremost, Chartered Professional Engineer from Engineers Australia is globally recognized, which means that if you work in the Gulf, you're recognized. You work in other parts of the world, you're recognized. It provides a superior market value, and it is recognized by the community, industry, and government as professional and instantly signals ability, professionalism, and respect. Earlier on, the video says respect is in your 8 millimeters, not in the meters. What does that mean? 8 millimeters. Assuming if you go out, look, I'm not an engineer, okay? I didn't graduate from engineering. My background is in business. So my name is just Ashley Pang. You look at the business card, it's just Ashley Pang. Oh, okay. But if I'm an engineer and a chartered engineer, it's Ashley Pang CPEng, the post-nominals. The 8 millimeters after my name. You don't have to talk about how much projects you have done, what projects you have done, and all those kind of things. Automatically, it signals a respect that people will say, oh, you're a chartered engineer. You're competent because you have gone through an internationally benchmarked process to assess your competency. And that difference. Now, again, coming back to my earlier disclaimer, I'm not saying that if you're not chartered, you're not competent. It's just that you have to start explaining what projects you've done, and all those kind of things. But with that 8 millimeter, it automatically signifies a difference. And that's what everyone's looking for. All right. So I don't have to sell to you why chartered is important. Now I think you're interested to know how do you go about getting chartered. All right. So bear with me, just another quick video about the importance of chartered.
Chartered engineers has definitely given me a competitive edge. It not only recognized my professional and ethical practice, but it's also recognized my experience and qualifications. I've definitely excelled in my career after gaining the chartered engineer status.
So Chartered is not solely about the exact engineering discipline and that knowledge of, it's a broad array of different skill sets that they expect an engineer to be able. Are they ethical? Are you honest? What would you do in dealing with stakeholders and other customers, as well as the technical expertise?
Well, the decision to become chartered was after actually a conversation I had with another professional engineer, and we were talking about academics and the chartered status. And I decided, well, it's a signal for me to demonstrate the fact that I'm taking my profession seriously. And actually, when I looked at the competencies, I thought they were very important to be a professional engineer, whether you're an academic or you work in industry.
When it comes to promotions, I know that being chartered does play a part in that. I was made associate not long after I'd completed my Masters and I had become chartered.
It became necessary for me to benchmark my skills and my competencies to the marketplace, which involved sitting through the chartered process. I would say don't be scared to stand up and take the lead and be in front.
All right, in the video you heard about them talking about competencies, right? You're talking about being well-rounded instead of just technical proficiency. So what does that mean? Basically, to be chartered, our process involves you demonstrating competency in 16 elements. All right, we have clustered them into 4 core areas, but it's 16 elements. Now, at one glance, can anyone, shout out how many technical competencies are there? Come on, don't be shy. 16? There's 16 competencies, yes, but how many of them are technical? 5. All right, anyone disagree with that? No? Yeah, I think it's a very clear-cut clue, right? Technical proficiency, 5 of them. All right, but some people may argue that, you have to meet legal and regulatory requirements. Some may argue that there's also part of a technicality and all those kind of things. Okay, fine. But the whole idea here, or the whole message I'm trying to tell you is that you're not just gauged on your technical proficiency. It's not about how well you can design or how well you can calculate. It's also how well-rounded are you. Which means that as a chartered engineer, not only are you good in technically, but you must be able to also deal with ethical issues. You must be able to communicate. You must also be able to take judgment. So what we expect from a chartered engineer is that you are a well-rounded engineer. So that is what it's all about. So you have 5 technical proficiency in the area of practice. It's no longer on discipline. It's now based on area of practice, meaning that if you're practicing as a building maintenance engineer, you can be chartered in that area. If you are a fire safety engineer, you can be chartered in fire safety engineering. So it still falls under one of those colleges, but it is on your area of practice. Any questions so far? No. So you have to demonstrate your competency. All right. So how do you demonstrate your competency? We have a 6-step process. Step 1 is you do self-assessment. I'll go into details about each step, okay? But just give you a broad overview. Step 1 is you do a self-assessment. You rate yourself where you are against 4 competencies. Whether are you developing, functional, proficient, or advanced. Step 2 is you get your peers to see whether they agree with you or not. So you get your industry reviewers, means somebody who knows your work, to rate you against the same 4 competencies. And then if you are rated functional and above, that means either functional, advanced, or proficient, you can then enroll on chartered. So when you enroll on step 3, you have to submit your CPD hours. All right? And then on step 4 is where it gets interesting, where an assessor will actually communicate with you. Now, I do not know about the other institution or the other chartered pathways with other organizations, but with us, we have actually changed whereby right now the assessor will communicate with you once they receive your file. They'll give you a call or they'll write you an email and have a conversation with you. And based on that conversation, then they'll tell you how many pieces of evidence that you need to upload. You may be asking what is evidence. I'll explain it, not to worry. Then, after that, once you're ready, the assessor will arrange you for an interview. And at the end of the interview, the assessor will tell you, congratulations, you're chartered, or not yet. All right? So let's go into details of what is it all about. Self-assessment, step 1. You rate yourself against 4 ratings: developing, functional, proficient, or advanced. So what is developing? That means you have just fresh grad, you have just started off your career in 1 to 4 years, or even 1 to 3 years, and you're still learning. You need somebody to supervise you. That's what developing is all about. Functional means you're able to now act independently, work independently without supervision. You know what to do, you know how to carry out your daily duties, so that's functional. Proficient means you're not only able to act independently, you can also start training people. You know, train your team to go, and supervise them as well. So that is proficient. And advanced, obviously, you have got 15, 20 years of experience. You know, you already know your job in and out. Not only can you train people, you can also lead teams. You can, you know, do a lot of things, or even conduct trainings and all those. So that's what it's all about. Sounds simple, right? And what do? You go into, remember, here are all the competencies. There is 16 of them. And based on the competencies, this one is basically tell you what this competency is all about, the example, and you just click where you are in this. For example, develop safe and sustainable solutions. Just click. Move to the next one. Click. Move to the next one. Click. You can get this done in 10 minutes. Literally, you can get this done in 10 minutes. Now, the best part about this is this tool is free for anyone to use, even you're not a member. And why we say it's a tool for you to use? Because you can use this as a tool to do your appraisals or your performance reviews with your subordinates or with your supervisors. So you can gauge where you are and where in 6 months' time you are. So you can continue to do it, because what you're going to get is you're going to get a dashboard like this. So all the 16 elements, you can see where you are in each of them. All right? So once you have rated yourself functional and above, you can proceed to the industry reviewer. If you rate any one of them developing, this one will be blacked out. You can't click on it. All right? So it's a free tool. By all means, we encourage you to use it. All you need to do is just create an EA ID, not even a membership, an EA ID, and you can get to use that. All right? So that's step 1. Any question? Sounds simple, right? Okay. Now we come to step 2. You're already in step 2. 1 hour, you're done. Step 2, industry reviewer. See if your peers agree with you that you're ready to be chartered. So what you do is that, of course, your reviewer will have received an email invitation, confirm their details and all those kind of things. So this is like to certify that whatever they're going to answer is the truth. All right? So when you want to select your reviewer, this is the actual dashboard actually. You create your own reviewer. You select your own reviewers. You can select 1 for each competency. That means you can have 16 of them. Or 1 reviewer for 5 competencies. Or 1 reviewer for all 16. Or no reviewer at all. It's entirely up to you. Because you put forward your biggest case to the assessor. The assessor doesn't know you. So whatever you submit to the assessor is what the assessor will receive. If you think that, I don't need any reviewer, fine. It's your call because it's your application. But the fact here is that you can actually select any reviewer, and not all reviewers has to be engineers. We prefer, it's preferable, to be members of Engineers Australia, chartered, or engineers with 7 years postgraduate experience, but not necessarily has to be engineer. Why? For example, dealing with ethical issues. It could be your legal team. It could be your MD. It could be your HR. It could be anyone who knows or says you have demonstrated your competency as being ethical. It may not necessarily be an engineer. You get my point? So anyone who knows or can attest to you demonstrating that competency, you select them as your reviewer. Any questions so far? Very straightforward, right? Yes?
You don't have to be a member of the university.
No need. It can be totally not even an engineer, so do not need to be a member of Engineers Australia. We prefer them to be, so that at least we know their track record, but if not, then it's fine.
Because in UAE, you hardly find for Engineers Australia.
Oh, then I failed in my marketing, because you say you hardly find no, just kidding, just kidding.
Because last year I was trying to do fellowship things and I couldn't find people in my network fellowship engineers.
Okay.
To give your reviews, statements about you have to be a fellowship engineer.
Oh, all right.
I couldn't find like in my network.
Okay. Well, the good news is you don't need to. So you select the reviewer yourself. All right. As long as they know your work. All right.
It can be in the same company and in another company, but they don't know your work. You know?
As long as they know your work, it can be in the same company, it can be in a different company. You know, it doesn't matter. All right. All right. Any other question? No. Okay. So let's move on. So the reviewer will receive something like this, okay, where they just have to confirm their details, and obviously, okay, if I may just move backwards, I forgot this point here. You write not more than 1,500 characters, not words, why you say you are advanced, for example. So you have to put in a short statement, because why? The reviewer will receive this, and then the reviewer can say, oh yes, I agree, no, I disagree. You know, so this is what you provide in. And the assessor will also look at this. So this is just a short description, not your evidence, just a short description why you rate yourself advanced, functional, proficient. Right? Then the assessor will receive the same thing here, right? What you have written, and they can just basically click how they rate you. And if they want, they can also put in some comments if they choose to. Or they can just omit it and just click. So if a reviewer to receive this, it will take him maybe 1-2 minutes. Tuck, 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 done. Right. Now, if you want to use it as a tool, this is why I say you can use it as a tool, because then your supervisor can also put in, or you can supervise your subordinates and put it in comments and say, oh, you have done a great job, but these are the areas for your improvement on those. So this is a free tool. You can use it to support, as a performance appraisal between you and your team. Okay? Any question? No. Then after they have done the rating, you will get a dashboard like this, your self-assessment and your industry review rating. As long as you are hitting functional and above on all 16 of them, then you can apply for chartered. Click there and apply for chartered. And that's the end of step 2. Is it difficult? People can get this done with the cooperation of the industry reviewers, of course, within a week. Because the email goes to them, they click back, and you're done. So within 2 weeks, if the industry reviewer does not respond, the email will bounce back to the candidate. Then the candidate can either reselect another reviewer or remind the reviewer to please, complete the application for them. Yes?
In terms of like your technical degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have people from all parts of the world. So is there a requirement for the degree to be utilized by Engineers Australia?
Very good question.
Before you get into whether you're a professional engineer or a technologist or an associate.
Very good question. That is a precursor to chartered. That is what we call membership. Before you can even go on to chartered, right? Like I said, this is free tools you can use even you're not a member. But when you want to enroll for chartered, the requirement is you must be a full member of Engineers Australia. When I say full member, means your membership grade is MIEOS, or fellow, or FIEOS or something. It cannot be graduate GIEOS. You cannot be a graduate member, but you must be a full member. All right. In order for you to be a member of Engineers Australia, that's where Feynman, right? Yeah. Yes. Your question comes to be relevant. To become a member of Engineers Australia, the first step is you must either graduated from an EA, Engineers Australia, EA accredited program, which is usually all the Australian universities, including Wollongong University here in Dubai, or from a Washington Accord University. What is Washington Accord? How many of you are familiar with Washington Accord? Okay, a few of you, good. So you understand what I'm saying. Washington Accord is basically a body that looks, or an accord, where all the different countries have signed to attest that their engineering programs from the listed universities are of equivalent. All right? So now if you don't come from EA accredited or a Washington Accord university, It's not at the end of the road. You have to go through what we call a stage 1 assessment, where you submit your degree and your transcript, and then our assessment department will write to your university to match that the program that you've gone through is of equivalent, and they will accept you. Why is that important? Because if you don't, even though you may have studied a 4-year degree, but because after the assessment, we really realize that that 4 years is only equivalent to a 3-year, which is not the Washington Accord, but the Sydney Accord, then you will be accepted as engineering technologists. Okay? Or even if you say you're 3 years, you're engineering technologist, but after assessment, you can only be accepted as engineering associate. We will inform the candidate precisely that. So it's up to the candidate whether they still want to continue to join or not.
How about for those who have a 3 years degree, but with a master degree, MSc?
Yes. If, especially from the UK or from some countries, usually it's 3 years degree and then they add on 1 more year of master degree, then we will accept that as equivalent to a 4-year.
How long does the process take for assessing?
The stage 1 assessment, usually it can take anything between 2 weeks to 3 months, because it depends on how fast the corresponding university comes back. And sometimes we may not even need to go through stage 1 because we have track record of X number of people who have gone through the program from X years, and once you submit it, we say, oh, we have already track record that is of equivalent and we can just accept you. Yeah. All right. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone? No? Okay. So when you enroll, you have to supply your CPD records, your CV, and also your photo ID. Now, this is for chartered. Prior to this, like I said, you have to become a member first. So membership is a different requirement. All right? So this is where you enroll, and this is where you actually make your payment. All right? So prior to this, no payment is required. This is the time you make a payment. Yes, our fee is 1,600 Australian dollars, one-off. Okay? And you see that it's of value because you only pay 1 time. There's no pass or fail. Because throughout the rest of the process is either you are congratulations, chartered, or not yet. Not yet means you don't have to re-enroll. We will pass you through step 4. And you continue to do it until you become chartered. So it's a one-time off payment only. And after that, every year you just maintain your membership. That's it. All right? Okay, so you have to provide your CPD log of 150 hours over the last 3 years. What does CPD consist of? Okay, it will have at least 50 hours that must be related to your area of practice. Now, if you want to be a building services, of course, you have to be 150 hours at least over the last 3 years that's in building services. At least 10 hours that must cover risk management, and at least 15 hours that address the business and management skills. Now, our CPD is what we call an honor system, because meaning that you self-declare. All right, you can even get CPD hours from attending the event today. If it's 1 hour, you get 1 hour CPD. All right, or even from your own internal meetings, as long as there's learning element in there. All right, or when you speak at conferences and things like that, or even reading our Create magazine or technical journals. Of course, you cannot claim 150 hours from reading journals. You cannot do that. All right, there will be certain cap on certain things, but it's like that. So for you to get 50 hours in a year as a practicing engineer should not be difficult. Unless you every day just go and work in the site, at the project, then maybe a bit challenging. But why we say over 3 years? Because maybe the first year you only get 20 hours, and you can make it up for the next 2 years. So it's a combination, total of 150 hours. Okay? Any questions so far? Yes.
But if you learn some software, it's like 40 or 50 hours of time for learning that software. So this will be counted in your field practice?
Well, if you're going to say that I learned software over the last 3 years and each year is 50 hours learning that software, maybe not.
No, only like once your software is finished, you have to write starting date and
yes, you can.
It's like counts like 5 hours. That would be.
You can count it in. All right, but there's a cap. Okay, I'm happy to share post this presentation. Share what are the caps and all those kind of things. There are certain guidelines. All right. Yes.
His hours as I want to take on this question.
Mm-hmm.
If he spent about 50 hours on software, how compared to give me some?
Every hour you spend is considered 1 hour. It's the same. So in a sense that, of course, like I said, there's a cap, there's a guideline. I cannot remember offhand whether software learning, what's the limit. If let's say the limit is 30 hours, even though you spend 150 hours, you can only claim 30 hours. You know, but it's 1-to-1. Yeah, we don't like, not like the PDU points and all those where every 2 hours become 1 points and things like that. No, CPD hours is 1 hour equals 1 hour. All right? Any other question? Yes?
Maybe on practice.
Mm-hmm.
Can I be chartered in more than 1
Yes, you can be chartered in 2, 3, or 4, or you can be chartered today, and then later on you say that, oh, I'm involved in project management. I want to add on. You can just add it on. Through, of course, not just add on like that, but self-declare, but through submission of documentation. You can. So you can be chartered in multiple areas. All right? Any other question? No? Let's move on. I'm just sensitive of the time. So, okay, chartered evidence. What does chartered evidence mean? Like I said, once you have submitted, once you have enrolled, your file goes to the assessor. Now, the assessor is a full-time assessor of Engineers Australia. They work for us full-time, and they are very senior people who have gone through, you know, probably at the retirement age and things like that. So, once you have received, the assessor will give you a call. Of course, before that, you must already know what evidence you want to submit. All right? The assessor will give you a call, and based on that conversation, the assessor may say, I don't need 16 evidence. You can communicate, obviously. You know, based on conversation, I know you can make sound judgment. Therefore, I only need 8 pieces of evidence. So what are the samples of evidence? These are samples of your evidence. It can be emails. Of course, these are all the 16 elements of competency, right? So if you're talking about say, for example, number 5, engage with the relevant community and stakeholders. Examples of the pieces of evidence could be minutes, could be plans, reports, Gantt chart, presentations. It can be your stakeholder engagement plans. And we take evidence from the last 10 years of your work. Anyone here has changed job recently? You may say, oh, geez, how am I going to get back my previous records and all? Not to worry. If you can't, you can still write a 500-word competency claim. Now, in the past, our process has always been writing. For each element, 500 words, not 500 for all. Huh? Each element, 500 words. I think Sin Yap went through that. Oh, no, Sin Yap went through a different one, mutual recognition. So you have to start writing each one of them. So we decided that why make you all do extra work? Because you already have your evidence. Extract the evidence and submit to us. Now look, we don't need the whole super helicopter design that you're doing. We don't need to know who is your client. Whatever is confidential, deduct them. Right? Black it out. What we need is that portion that can demonstrate you showing competency in that area that you're claiming. So if you need to have, you know, permission and all those, it is your responsibility to get the permission, especially for those of you who are working in the consulting line. You need permissions from your clients and all those. You have to work up that one. Then you submit to us. We cannot be on your behalf ask for permission. And second thing is that also give it context. Don't, you know, a 500 pages report, you only submit 1 page and it's totally out of context where the assessor looks at it is like, okay, where's the head, where's the tail, you know? Give it some context. Of course, confidentiality, please, you know, deduct them. Any questions so far on the evidence? Now, that list of evidence is just an example. It can be any evidence. When you have the conversation with the assessor, tell them. Tell the assessor, oh, I'm thinking of submitting this. Can it be accepted? The assessor will advise you accordingly. All right? Any question? No? Let's move on. So, points to consider, number 1 is that it has to be, you know, authenticity is important. It is your work, not someone else's work that you claim to be yours. Okay? And guide the assessor to the appropriate section of the document. Don't just submit the document and hope the assessor can find it. All right? Guide the assessor. And examples of work are only helpful hints to the sort of work that might provide evidence. Okay? Now, ultimately, after that, what you're looking at is once you're ready, the assessor will take about 4 to 6 weeks to review it. And once the assessor feels that you're ready, they'll schedule you for a professional interview. Your interview is one-to-one. It's not a panel. The same assessor who had the conversation with you will be the same assessor that will be conducting the interview, unless the assessor is no longer around. Sorry to say this is the assessor's own word. He said, I'm old. I might not be here longer. So if he's not around, someone else will take over. Maybe he's on vacation or whatever, all right? Okay, so it's a one-to-one basis. And over here, we'll conduct the interview via Skype. All right, you set a time, you schedule a time, the assessor will do it via Skype. It's a 40 minutes to about an hour, and the assessor says, you are not required to do presentation. It is not a requirement, but if you choose to do so, by all means, it is your time. If you feel more comfortable doing a presentation, go ahead. But if you don't want to do a presentation, it's also all right. Okay? So once at the, during the interview, obviously, very important Code of Ethics of Engineers Australia is a document that you can download from the web. You can actually get it. Familiarize yourself with Engineers Australia Code of Ethics because assessor will ask you. All right, you are going through Engineers Australia chartership. All right, and our Code of Ethics is in 4 areas: demonstrate integrity, exercise leadership, practice competency, and promote sustainability. You can read it on the web. So at the end of the interview, that's where the assessor will tell you, congratulations, you are chartered on the spot. Or, not yet. So it's not a pass or fail. So what does not yet means? Not yet means that, okay, I feel that we need a bit more experience. I feel that you need to submit further evidence. You go back to step 4. Again, remember I said earlier, enrollment is only one time. Payment only one time. After that, you come back here. And you do until you become chartered. All right? Now, if the assessor will only schedule you for interview when they are 95% sure you can do it. Unless you really took someone's work and claim it to be yours. The assessor will know during the interview. All right, so once you're chartered, congratulations. You can, again, Chartered Professional Engineer, Chartered Engineering Technologies, or Chartered Engineering Associates. And you can then get yourself registered on NER, which is our National Engineers Register. You can also then sign up to become International PE, or even, what's the other one? There's an International PE and also APEC Engineer. Okay, you can be on all different registers. Of course, all these registers will cost a little sum of money. Like, for example, to be on NER, I think it's about $20 a year, additional to your membership. Then after that, every year, you just maintain your membership fees. And that's it. That's the end of my presentation. This is where you can get the link to the self-assessment tool. Like I said, it's free to use. Right, it's just engineersaustralia.com.au/charter. Any question?
Normally, staff don't work here unless you have this. Normally, you cannot give this interview in sitting in office.
Is there any other video conferencing platform that you use?
MS Teams.
MS Teams? Okay. We'll take note of that. We definitely can set it up. We have done interviews via multiple platforms. Worst case, we can still do voice, but we prefer video. At least we can see each other and see the body language and things like that. All right. Or if you have if everyone here is going through the chartered, I can fly the assessor here. It's a holiday for him. All right. Any other questions? Anyone? Anyone after hearing this does not want to go through chartered? Please raise your hand. Oh, you don't want to go through chartered? Why?
I have a question.
Yes.
You discussed on step number 4 regarding evidence of competencies. So for this evidence of competencies, it can be anything that we have done. Say, for example, if I have 10 years experience, something that I have done, maybe a training that I have taken, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 years. So that is an evidence of competency.
Oh, very good question.
Should it be within the last 3 years?
No, the competency is you demonstrating it, not you taking a course for it. That means your training that you've taken to learn something will not be counted as evidence of you demonstrating competency. So what does demonstrating competency means? That you are actually practicing it, you are actually showing it, not learning it. If you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Then the second one is regarding the step 3.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned regarding provide 150 hours of CPD.
Mm-hmm.
So this 150 hours of CPD, you say from the last 3 years, which is from the date of the time, last 3 years we have to provide CPD hours.
Yes.
Like the same question which I had asked, maybe like 6 years back I have taken a training.
No.
Can I show that as a
No, CPD has to be the last 3 years from your date of enrollment. Okay, to your question, you cannot take CPD 5 years ago and claim that, oh, I've done 150 hours. You can't. Because as a chartered engineer, or even as an engineer, you have to be continuously developing yourself to be relevant with the market and all those kind of things. Therefore, you need to have that CPD over the last 3 years. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. Every 5 years, in a period of 5 years, not more than 5 years, can be 3 years, can be 2 years, they will audit you by asking you to submit evidence of your CPD. Oh, okay. A very good question that was asked. How long does it take for you to get chartered through this process? All right. Earlier on, I mentioned step 1, 1 hour. Step 2, depending on how fast your industry review come back, not longer than 2 weeks. Right, the assessor will take about 4 weeks to review the first step, communicate with you, usually 1 to 2 weeks. But let's say he takes 4 weeks. He communicates with you and you've got all your evidence ready. And you submit all your evidence after you put down the conversation with him. He takes another 4 to 6 weeks to review. And he said, you're ready for the interview, and schedule you for interview within a week. And you do the interview 40 minutes, right? And you're chartered. So how long does the process take? I would say averagely, it can be as quick as 2 months, right? On average, I would say, maybe you might want to quote me, 3 months. In 3 months' time, you can be chartered, right? 2, how long will it take? Depending on how fast you submit your documentation. So, but on average, I would say 3 months. But I can tell you that people have done it in 1.5 months. In 1.5 months, they become chartered. They got everything ready. I mean, they are already experienced enough. They just have to submit, and they're done. All right? I mentioned earlier, it's 1,600 Australian dollars one time. But of course, your membership is different. Your membership is 512 Australian dollars every year. All right, any other question? Yes?
Will it affect how you are assessed later on? Because if you are having functional, you should pass basically to proceed. But if you claim advanced or higher levels and then you go to interview and he finds you to be functional, will it have an effect? Or should you meet what you have claimed, or as long as you pass, it's very okay?
Of course, if you claim to be advanced, and your peer review also say you're advanced, but when you go to the interview, somehow the assessor feel that, oh, you're not there. Honestly, I don't think it will affect your chartership, because unless you are developing. But if you drop back to functional, then at least you're still eligible to go through it. I don't see a problem there.
So is it better to just put functional and go ahead?
You can. It depends on how strong you want to submit your case to the assessor. Yeah. Now, this is our standard pathway. All right, this is our standard pathway. If you have 15 years of work experience and above, come to me. I'll get you on a fast-track pathway, which is chartered via interview. I need a very comprehensive CV from you, get it reviewed by the assessor, and if the assessor says you're eligible for that pathway, you straight away bypass all this, you go straight into interview. So it's a CVI, but it's only for 15 years and above.
So I have to email you, like I have around 18 years.
Please, email it to me. Yeah. Email it to me. Yes, a detailed CV. Because once you email the detailed CV to me, I will submit it into the assessor. Please review this candidate, right? Because his experience. All right? But become a member first. Yeah. Just joking. But become a member first. All right. All right. Any other question? Anyone?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
What is the difference between charter professional engineer and registered professional engineer in Australia?
Okay, good question. RPEQ, Registered Professional Engineer in the state of Queensland and also in the state of Victoria right now, is different. Okay, Chartered Professional Engineer is a voluntary system where you get yourself benchmarked against competency. If you want to practice in the state of Queensland and Victoria right now, or even you're here in Dubai, but your work is going into the state of Queensland or Victoria, you need to be registered with the state of Queensland and Victoria. All right? Now, if you're chartered, what happens is that when you went to register with the state, what they'll do ask you is that, are you a member of Engineers Australia? If yes, it's a tick. Are you a chartered professional engineer? Or are you on the NER? If yes, it's a tick. Now, on NER, you may not be chartered, but you can be on NER. All right? It's a different conversation, but you can be. So if you are, it's a tick. If you're not, then they'll say you have to do an assessment by the state. So the state will then assess you. So if you're already chartered, it's a tick, which means that you bypass that assessment for registering yourself as a RPEQ or RPEV. And what I'm trying to say here is that they point you back to Engineers Australia. If you're already with Engineers Australia, it means that Engineers Australia have already done the assessment. So they can just tick on the box. I hope that answers your question. Only Queensland and Victoria at the moment. It's a possibility that New South Wales may be coming in very quickly because they've already hired a chief engineer. Canberra also has already hired a chief engineer as well. But at this moment, it still has to pass through Parliament and things like that. You want to add something? No? Any other question? No? All right. Thank you so much.